Let's talk about Sigourney Weaver. We got Sigourney Beaver, which I gotta watch the new episode of Dragula. Is it on already? I gotta check. But Sigourney Weaver, what was it? At New York Comic Con, she did talk a bit about this whole situation with Alien. That she was interested in doing another Alien movie, that one of the producers that worked in the original Alien had worked on a script that was really good. We'll take that with a grain of salt because y'all have said that many a times about the Alien films, and a lot of them have relatively been disappointments. Alien Romulus, in my opinion, shout out to Fede Alvarez, was a good movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I went to see it twice in theaters, and I watched it again when it was on streaming. So Fede Alvarez, I thought, did a great job. But to me, after I read this whole thing about her going in on or blaming the reason why situations happen on Ridley Scott, I truly believe that Ridley Scott is the reason why Fede Alvarez is not doing a follow up to Alien Romulus because of his jealousy issues and his control issues. So Sigourney attended a screening of the original 1979 pick and participated in the Q&A. Okay, this is different. So I thought it was the I thought it had to do with the Comic Con anyway, but this is another event. So yeah, she went to a screening of the original 1979 film and participated in a Q&A at a career masterclass panel at the Cinémathèque Française, I think that's how you say it, in Paris, Francais, where the actress dished a little on why she thinks Neill Blomkamp's iteration of Alien 5 fizzled out. So if y'all remember, or don't, Neill Blomkamp was in talks of shooting an Alien sequel, and this is about almost a decade ago, or it might have been about a decade ago. So there was even concept art. I remember seeing that online, and people were excited to see what he was going to come up with because, yes, he's had a couple of stumbles. What was that movie he did with Dot Antwoord? That shit was terrible. Chappie, that was terrible. And then he did Elysium. I have a love-hate relationship with Elysium. I thought Matt Damon did a good job in the film. I like some of the technical tech stuff. I like the idea about the things surrounding about healthcare and things with poor people in healthcare. So I like that whole angle with it and the sci-fi because you do take social commentary and put it in science fiction. That's how it's an easier pill for people to swallow when you watch science fiction movies, which is why outside of horror, sci-fi is one of my favorite genres of movies and books. So um I liked Elysium. It felt a little um it felt a little what's the term? Like a little hammy at times, like it was beating the people over the head with the whole healthcare situation. But overall, the action, everything that was up in there, the technology, all the cool, there was some cool elements about it. I did feel like you did hammer it a little bit with the healthcare stuff, but overall, I had a good time with that film. And of course, District 9. I love that freaking movie as well. So it made perfect sense that someone like a Neil Blomkamp would come aboard and do a District 9. I mean, not a District 9. That because he did District 9, he could do an alien movie. And it was interesting to see what he was going to do with that. But now the film fell apart. And much like Blomkamp's attempts at reviving Robocop and Halo, now I would have loved to have seen him do something with Robocop or Halo. The Halo TV series wasn't that good, but there was some parts of it that I liked visually. We have no reasons as to why the RoboCop and Halo films didn't happen, but the studio 20th Century Fox then decided to go in a different direction with the franchise by prioritizing Ridley Scott's prequels, Prometheus and Alien Covenant, which were not really good financial successes at the box office. Now, this month, Alien franchise star Sigourney Weaver, as I mentioned, did the Q&A masterclass, and she said that the film was canned because Ridley Scott being possessive. She said, yes, well, I think like many of us, I was a big admirer of Neill. His movie was so striking, and I worked with him on a movie called Chappie, which I did mention that wasn't a good film, but she was in it, and she had a good time working with him. And she said, and I love working with Neill. And he had this idea of bringing Ripley and Newt back, which I would have loved to have seen because I hated the fact that y'all killed Newt off in Alien 3. I just felt like that was a cop out, and it was just dumb for y'all to kill her off. He said it was a wonderful she said it was a wonderful script, and unfortunately, it was at that point, I think, that Ridley Scott decided to be very possessive about the series and really drilled down on his prequels. And so I think it was a disaster for that project. We were never able to. I think Neil, in fact, just gave up, and he's so talented. I wish him all the best. And this is what she told the panel. Now, just don't ask Blomkamp about Alien 5 because 2 years ago, Uprocks interviewed the filmmaker about Gran Turismo, but when the topic of Alien came up, Blomkamp didn't want to hear anything about it. It's harder to find how little I care about what happens to Alien. This is what he said. And then right after that, the interview abruptly ended. So he was pissed. I think it was just probably the wound was a little too fresh. And I actually believe Sigourney. And that's why I was saying why I believe her is because there's been a story that was going around, and I think it was Jeff Snyder that revealed this. Shout out to him, that Fede Alvarez is no longer a part. And Fede put out this big story about, oh, well, it's scheduled to come, whatever, whatever. That's why he's not doing the Alien Romulus follow up. They're like, well, we want to bring fresh blood into it. But I'm like, fresh blood, when it was like after the success of Alien Romulus, you were talking about you couldn't wait to go and make another movie. So why all of a sudden now we talking about fresh blood? I think the issue is Ridley Scott is someone who is very possessive and jealous because nobody cared about Prometheus and these other prequels or whatever. I don't care how many times you want to put Charlize Theron in something. The movies were not good. So you were trying to drill your ideas. The box office proved otherwise because people didn't care. The movies didn't do all that well. You think because it's your baby that you could do whatever you want. And technically, you did create the whole alien situation. But if somebody comes along with a much better idea on how to revive a franchise, you don't like money? You don't want to give them the opportunity to just come and create whatever. You could just get a producer credit or whatever the case is, and y'all could all just be happy with the whole result. But the fact that Fede Alvarez comes along and makes your franchise interesting again, and people want a sequel to it, I really feel like that was the reason why Freddie was taken off because he got jealous. And so I believe it. And if Ridley Scott want to run around being all jealous over stuff, then continue to watch your franchise fail. But if somebody is able to come along and I guess come up with a new idea for whatever the follow up to Alien Romulus is going to be, I'll be curious to check it out. But I actually liked Alien Romulus. But and I'm sad to hear that well they said creative differences with the whole Fede Alvarez situation, but child, I'm sure there's the reasoning is what I said. But it would have been really cool to see what Neil Blomkamp could have brought to the franchise, but sadly, we'll never know. So I say all this to say, what do you guys think of this story in regards to what Sigourney Weaver had to say about the Alien movie not happening because of possessive ass Ridley Scott? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments down below.